Bellow on the bellow on the bellow. Bellow on the bellow on the bellow.
Yeah, the real shop talk. Just come and take a listen. Some grown men with unbiased and honest opinions, and with no agendas, so you just gotta check it. Talking love and life from a male perspective. We keep it authentic, real, no filter. Leave a comment, be part of the show. We here to give you 5 gentlemen's views about manhood, no doubt. This This the show you've been needing, yeah, it's the Real Shop Talk. Let's go. Hey.
Welcome back, everybody. You know what time it is. It's Monday. It is the Real Shop Talk, and we are live. Make sure if you haven't done so, we are trying to grow our YouTube page. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like. Make sure you hit that bell so you can get the notifications. And when you see that live pop up days before, hit that thing that says reminder so it'll pop up for you. Make sure that you are here front and center from beginning to end. And everybody who keeps coming back, we love y'all, man. And the ones who ain't even here, if you watch the replay, we love you too, replay viewers. So I want to make sure that we set the tone for this. I'm going to go around the room real quick. We'll do some short introductions. Our fifth member of the team will be here shortly, so he will come in a little later, but he will definitely be here. So we're going to be in full force tonight. I'm going to go around, do some brief introductions, and then we're going to get it started. I'll start first. My name is Derek Jones, and I'm a certified life and relationship coach, and I'm the host of the Relationship Gumbo podcast every Wednesday at 8 p.m. So I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to send it over to my man, Gunter Man. Welcome.
Hey, what's up, guys? What's up? What's up? I am Gunter Man. I'm the host of the Gunter Man Show every Thursday night on Instagram Live at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. Passing it on down to John Singletary.
John Singletary here, the host of the Help Myself podcast, and glad to be here. Let me pass it on to the man, the myth, and the legend.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Tony Massey. Tony Massey Speaks, Tony Massey Cooks, and my newest venture, Tony Massey Shoots. So glad to be here tonight. Really excited about the topic. It's time to get some grown man stuff on the table.
All right, so... And gentlemen, feel free on the panel, feel free to add in or ask any questions that you want to ask as well. I have a list here that we've kind of gathered. And for the people in the comments, we're going to tiptoe there, but we're not going all the way there. Y'all lighting candles and stuff and setting the mood. We're going to give you how, because we're all, when Tony Watts comes, we're five men who have some similar opinions, some different opinions. So we're going to take these little bullet points and we're just going to give you our honest and vulnerable opinion of what we think about it. So the way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to ask, we have two categories. We have love and we have sex. So I'm going to ask a question of a love question, then a sex question, then a love question, then a sex question. That way we kind of intermingle the two. And so the first thing I'm going to ask the gentleman is, First of all, to set the tone, a lot of times when we talk about love and we talk about men and women, and we know that a lot of times men look at it differently than women do, but yet we're supposed to be able to build something together. So we want to give you our side of the fence, and then how that kind of intermingles with how some of you women think about it and how that could possibly work. So I'm going to ask this question, and some of these questions are going to be things that maybe that we know that women may think or assume about us, and then we're just going to tell them how we feel. So my first
Hold on,
question,
before you get started, can I add this? When it comes to the comments, I want you ladies to help us to stay focused on this topic, meaning that if you comment, try to make comments that will help lead the conversation, because we're really curious on what you think. And if we say something, speak about the things that we're talking about and try to stop all the side conversations, because we're really trying to build like a real community here where people can glean to not only just what's being said on the video, but also as they go through YouTube, they're watching the comments that pop up afterwards and they can learn something from you guys also. We're a team, so let's work together.
Right. So we just as a side to that, we want to make this viable for even people that come 2 months later. We want them to get as much value as possible. And because you guys are the sixth person on the team, we want to make sure that what your concerns are also a part of the show. So make sure you guys comment, ask questions, and we will definitely try to get to as many as possible. So here's the first question. As far as men go, do you think that, because I'm going to jump around here, but I got some things. Do you think that most men see love as something that they aspire to have or look for, or is it something that they just fall into because they just happen to be in something and they're like, you know what, might as well say it back too? Where do you think most men fall into? Do you think that there's a large population of men that are walking around saying, I want to find somebody I could fall in love with? Or do you think they end up saying it or enacting a character that looks like he's in love, but he kind of fell into it? So I'm gonna start with Tony Massey.
So I love this question because it brings up a topic that I've always found fascinating, and that is what I describe as the kind of the pruning of emotions from men by other men. And here's what I mean by that. You coming up, there is no real rules against expressing emotions, right? Until you express an emotion that either can't be felt by someone else, or you're feeling that emotion for someone that they themselves, have a crush on. And so what ends up happening is young boys go through this situation, this gauntlet, if you will, of teaching them that their emotions and their desire for interaction with girls on a romantic level is wrong. And so we're taught by our peers that you're not supposed to like girls, that you're not supposed to, buy them things. You're not supposed to have emotions for them. Girls are icky and all this other stuff. And most of the time we're being taught that lesson by someone who is emotionally inept because of their own situations at home. They don't know how to express those feelings, or they're jealous of the fact that you are so bold in expressing those feelings. And so then you enter into this space where now love is no longer a goal. It's just the physical manifestation of what happens between a boy and a girl. And that's where it's limited. And it takes a very strong-minded young man, or at least someone with a good foundation, to get past that and actually express what I feel is an innate desire for someone else. I won't even say the opposite sex, because I'm of the opinion that feelings are not really well defined until you define them. But we all have a desire to be touched, to be kissed, to be desired, to desire. You know what I mean? I think that's innate within inside of us. I mean, we've talked about this before, how they have these experiments with babies where they don't touch the baby for the first year of their life, and some of the babies actually die. I think that the desire to love is innate. I think it's something that's inside of us naturally. But I think that socially, it gets beaten out of us. And it gets beaten out of us by young men who who don't have an outlet for love. And I think that's the real tragedy. There are young men who are being raised by people who don't know how to express love, both men and women. They don't know what love looks like because they've never seen it themselves. Or they think that love is something that you do as an obligation. They've never experienced love as something you do out of pure desire. Being a father is obligatory, but it's also a desire, right? Because you got to put food on the table. You can't tell your kids I love you while their stomachs are grumbling. You know what I mean? They're not going to believe you. But there's also a desire to see your kids grow and to play with them and smile with them and have fun with them. So it's both. But if you never saw the desire part and you only do the obligatory part, then it can be confusing when you have these feelings inside of you that say, I just want to walk her to class. Well, what do I get out of it? What does she get out of it? The whole nine. So I know my plane took a hard left, but to answer the question in simple terms, yes, I do think that men have a desire to love. I just don't think socially that desire is cultivated and allowed. I'll land there.
Yeah. I guess we'll go to John Singletary. He looked like he got something to say.
Well, yeah, that's what it is. I look like I got something to say.
Yes, sir.
Oh man, I think it's y'all excuse the pirate music in the background. I don't know why we on pirates today, but we'll take it. I think it's not a consistent, persistent thing. I think because for some reason I just kind of feel like men were chivalric historically, and it's just something of this more recent generation. You know, I think that it's always been an honorable thing. It was funny because as soon as Tony got done, I was gonna jump out and start doing the rap part on Cool It Now from New Edition. Why you all coming down on me, trying to tell me how my life supposed to be? I know you just tried to help me out, trying to tell me what life is. Oh, let me stop. But if I like the girl, who cares who you like? You know what I'm saying? But nah, man. Back to the question, though. I'm all getting in Tony's answer. Talking about do guys? Nah. I think I don't think that I'm uniquely qualified to say most guys. All I can speak for is myself and maybe a few of the gentlemen that I know. But I think that we desire to love, and I think experiences, whether it be with our peers or whether it's in relationships, I think sometimes that can have a filtering effect on how we want to express. But I think we all have, like Tony said, an innate desire to be loved. But I do think that we do have an outer expressed desire. And again, if it's peer to peer, it's them talking about, oh, you soft, you know. But you know, when you really like a woman and dudes is calling you soft, you know how we would push back. I'm gonna be soft then. That's just what it's gonna be, you know, if you really liked her. But I think it's just this generation is kind of getting away from it, or maybe our generation kind of got away from it. You know, we talk about the black family, obviously, in the 60s and 70s, and how the government was intentional about destroying that family. And I think that when you start to get to those homes that didn't have fathers in them, and that dynamic, the young men didn't understand how to express that because they weren't seeing it. But if you grew up in a home where you saw a father loving your mother and you saw that relationship, then you would be proud of that, because the man that was signaling to you what was good, what was cool, what you wanted to look up to, signaled to you that it was okay to be expressive and loving, then you would fall into that pattern. But if you didn't see that, and if you saw a mother that couldn't find, you know, a proper mate, and you just saw all this other stuff and the rise of players and pimps and all this foolishness, then yes, we would struggle with expressing love in that way. So yeah, that's I'm gonna steal the phrase. I'm landing my plane there.
All right, Gunter man.
Her name was Diana. First grade. Lord have mercy. As a little boy, she was a little Puerto Rican goddess. By third grade, it was Lisa Parker. I don't know about you, but I had an interest and a feeling for love since first grade. I did. I could tell you. Now, what's the truth of it? It sparked a definite interest. Like, Lord have mercy, you know, doing all types of bad things from first and second to third grade, and just curious about things. But you didn't hear conversations about it. You know, I think love when you're a kid it just has different meanings than when you get older. You know, like when you get to an age where you're actually now really looking to connect. And I'm talking past maybe the high school crushes and the things that you go through in college, the madness of college days. When you really start to look, you want love, But in all that time, so from from 5th grade or 6 years old, from 6 years old to now 18 years old in college, you didn't have a real detailed thing about what love is, like what to look for. Now, once again, I have my dad and my mom together, but my mom was sick often. So that gave me a vision of a man taking care and loving and passionately looking over and looking after my mom, which once again, when I think about love and I think about my parents, it's always a picture of my dad sitting next to my mom, hospital bed, waiting for her to get better. But coming home, my dad and I never had those conversations about love and what to go after and how to be a man or his definition. He was one of those silent guys, provided for the family, filled with jokes and laughter. But when it came to the stuff like, tell me how to do this, it was really up to my mom to tell me that stuff. So I guess that connection between daughters and fathers was real in my house because they have a completely different relationship with my dad to this day than I do with my mom. So my mom talked about the birds and the bees and being curious and that, and don't let your heart get broken. There's going to be many fish in the sea is what she said, many fish in the sea. So I grew up believing that I'm feeling these things from a young age, but no one's teaching me how to do it. So I think, yes, people want to be loved. People want that connection. People want someone to like and for someone to like them back. But if no one's explaining it to you, giving you, at least having a conversation about it, how do you start to decide what's right and what's wrong or what it really is? What is it that I'm really feeling? Because Lord knows her name was Diana, my little Puerto Rican goddess. And that was only in 1st grade. This is not made up. This is real. 3rd grade, Lisa Parker. You can't tell me because I wrote a Valentine's letter. Because you remember, I don't know if maybe I'm just dating myself with this one. Back in the days, you had to write like on Valentine's Day, write Valentine's letters and put it in a mailbox in your classroom community mailbox, and then they would give it out. And Lisa Parker broke my heart because I spelled her name wrong, so she wouldn't accept the letter. What's wrong with these women? But that's the truth.
Come on, man. You know better than to misspell the name.
Evidently, I didn't. I think I put 2 S's in Lisa. And I can still, here's the crazy, I can still remember the handwriting on the letter. So it left marks. But that's the truth. Yeah. So unless it's discussed, it's not going to be, for us guys, like I said, go outside and play. No one talked about building a family and falling in love with us and raising. No one had that conversation growing up. So it only hits you till sometime after college when you start to really say, like, I'm looking for a helpmeet. And you're only using the word helpmeet is if you grew up in church. So what is a helpmeet? Someone that's going to help you find and see the blind spots. Someone that's going to make your good better and your better best. But that's not until you get older. What do you think? What do you say, Derek Jones? Can't hear you, Derek. Take you off the mic.
My bad. First thing I'm going to say is, everybody in the comments and who are watching live, make sure if you're enjoying the content so far, make sure you click that thumb. So our plane went from China to Japan to Germany, and now we're gonna try to get back to the United States. I'm gonna try to guide the plane. So this is what I think. I think with Tony, I'm gonna take a little piece of what everybody said. I think what Tony Watts was saying about growing up in an environment where we were shown and taught to suppress how we Tony Massey, how we might have felt about love and kind of even in the midst of possibly feeling something, having to basically say no to yourself because it wasn't cool to do. And then there were those of us, like John Singletary said, I don't care, I'm going in. This is me. I'm about to do this. I think a lot of times when a lot of us grow up in an environment where the environment says don't do it, but we still want the companionship of a woman, so we go there anyway. And I think sometimes when we don't have those tools, we do something that's kind of more performative. Like we'll say the words, we'll act like it. And then if it's really good, we'll eventually get to the point where we realize we don't have to perform anymore. Maybe we can just land here and it's cool. But a lot of people, and this is the part that's confusing, especially to women who are the ones who generally will be the ones that kind of are the masters of this emotional space for the most part. How do they tell the difference? Right? Because we want to do whatever it takes to stay there. So if they're requiring you to say the words, remember the movie Thin Line Between Love and Hate with Martin Lawrence? They want to hear the words, you're going to say the words. Are you ready? Do you really feel love though? Is that person, to Tony Massey's, what he was saying is that we all have an innate need for it. So we in there, we're going to segue into the sex part, but we doing stuff and we're getting all of the comforts and the feelings and the things that look like love, but maybe we don't even know. I'm saying it, but do I know what it is? It wasn't modeled for me, like John Singletary said. Maybe we didn't see it. So I think sometimes, to the point of the question, sometimes a lot of men will perform like they're in love and then they fall into it, as opposed to someone who, before it even happens, says, I really wish I could find somebody that I could fall in love with. There's those of us out there too. But I think a lot of times men are just chasing a certain thing and then they're like, okay, it feels good here. Oh, she said she loved me. Okay, I love you too. And then further on down the line, it's like, yeah, I think I like it here. I'm going to really mean what I say. I hope that makes sense. So from what I've seen in my short time on this earth, I think that we all need it, like from a kid. And I think in some way, shape, or form, we're searching for that validation of love. And sometimes it just looks ugly, the route that you take to get there, if you ever get there. I think a lot of us take some really treacherous journeys to try to get that validation, and we do some crazy stuff to get there. But I think the source that it comes from, it all comes from the same place, man. We've had it since we were kids, and we're seeking it for it. No matter what your household look like, there's an innate part of you that wants to find it. And sometimes finding it means you sleep with a bunch of people, but you're still searching for something. Even though it's ugly, you might hurt some people along the way, but you're still searching for something. I don't care how much of a player, predator, whatever you are, you're still searching for something. So I'm going to land there. I don't think I made it back to the United States. I might be in London now, but it's all good. So now we're going to go into the next question. Falls under the sex category. So I'm going to take these questions that I was given and I'm going to see where we are here. So, and this question is going to go to John Singletary first this time. How far apart do you believe men and women are on their views of sex in present day? Because present day is kind of an interesting place we're in right now.
Yeah, so I hear DJ playing Fine 100 Ways. That's what I'm talking about, DJ. Play it.
Yeah, so oh, you know what? Hold on one second before you do that. I do have a short little story. I met this young gentleman on Clubhouse back in like the end of last year, and he had to be like 22. And we were talking about love. And he said, I'm going to make sure that when I do fall in love, I want to make sure that I have stuff in place for her. Even before I meet her, I want to make sure my finances are good. I want to make sure that I have a place just in case, we decide to live in that place. And I really want to do I want to be chivalrous. I want to make sure that she's well taken care of. And I was like, I think you grew up in the wrong era because this don't sound like a 21-year-old. And you know what he said? Because he didn't have I think his dad might not have been in the house, and I was asking him, like, where did you learn this from? You know what he said? He said, I didn't have anybody model it for me. So the thing that trained and taught me how to do this was 80s and 90s R&B. And I was like, he's got a point. And we're in 2021. So John Singletary, the men and women, their views on sex, do they align? Do men still, typically see it differently, or do you think we're kind of melding together? We're starting to look the same now. Women, I don't know. I'm gonna let you speak to it, and then we'll go around.
I was about to say, I think out of all of that, I was able to pull some kind of segue, but I'm still. You just threw out a bunch of
because of what LJ was playing.
Yeah, Find 100 Ways. That's that's 80s. I was about to say that's 70s, but it ain't that old. That's 80s. Oh man. So not from a social construct are men and women far apart. I think I'll speak to it more on an interpersonal level. Like, I'm not going to make the assumption that women don't understand or don't know, but in the few conversations I've had, don't want to put it out here like I'm just out here having all these massive conversations with women about what they think about sex. That's not happening. But in the few conversations I've had, and I can understand that there's a protective nature and that sort of thing, and make sure that you've gotten to a certain level. But I think since we're in this forum, treat her like a lady. There we go. I want to know, do women understand that the sexual intimacy to a man is a way of saying that you love him? Do they understand that part? And so when we get to the point where I want to make sure that I'm not being intimate with the man too early and that's all he wants. Okay, now we're past that. Do you understand that for a woman, emotionally, I have to prove to you that I hold your emotions in esteem and I give you a safe place? But do you understand that safe place of a man feeling wanted and how terrible of a feeling that is to feel like your woman does not want you intimately and sexually? Do women understand that part of it, in the conversations about sex? So I believe that there is some distance there because of that question and that issue. Like, I wonder, does the average woman know that that's how we feel closer to you during sexual intimacy and that bond, and that helps us feel closer to you when we're engaging in that? And I wonder, do women understand it? Because we're clear that women see sex as it's a gate, it's a fix, you're not getting this. We're clear on that. We're abundantly clear on that. So I wonder if women understand that. So I do think that there's some distance.
So we're gonna go to Gunter Man. Are we aligned? Do you think women view it the same way? Is it vastly different? Is it aligning more now in 2021?
Well, I definitely have a lot of conversations regarding this subject because dealing with clientele, it always crops up. Somewhere along the line when they want to when they want to live the best version of themselves, when they want to live their truth, sex somewhere along the line helps defines and shapes some of the things that they want for their life. I think that men and women are a lot closer than ever before because socially it's more publicized. Unlike when we grew up without social media, we were still holding on to our community beliefs. This is what it is in our cult, in our particular town. This is how they see it. Boom. But as we got older and this younger generation came out, women and boys were moving almost at the same pace. They were collecting numbers. Girls were collecting numbers and boys were collecting numbers of sexual partners. I think that there's still that fine line of definition that defines, that separates the two. There's a line that separates the two, where for women it's still, on average, a more of an emotional connection, where a man is still almost kind of still just trying to conquer. Women are looking at it more as a, like, hey, one of the ways I'm gonna keep you here is by doing this thing, where men is almost like, if you do this thing and you move on, I'm not gonna be so shook. I'm not gonna be so shook by it. Where women are like, hey, what's up with that? So how do I answer this? Sex socially still feels like it's something that's more equally spoke about. But in an intimate relationship, like how John said, it is for a man, when you get older, that feeling of being safe, that feeling of being able to say, like, I'm here for you. Like being able to say, I will show up over and over and over again to let you know that I have your back. But then how do you make sense of it if the guy, or the girl and the guy grew up in a house without mom and dad in it? How do you make sense of it? Because then your community and your friends are kind of pushing you. Your peers are the ones that's kind of telling you what sex is and what it should be. Go out there and get as much as you can. Oh no, save it. Don't go have it with us. But now this generation don't say those same things. Almost everyone's saying, go out there and get whatever you can. Go out there and get as much as you can. So where is it? Because women are still more emotionally based and men are still logically based as that conqueror, the hunter. But we also now, with these new men are also now thinking, what? I want to be loved too, right? Like I want to feel loved too. So it's a new story for all of us because of social media. Everything is so out in the public. You're getting to hear so many different opinions because it is not so bad anymore for a man to show his feelings. Isn't that crazy? Where you grew up in a time, for myself, where men couldn't show their feelings and not be called a punk. So here we are. What up, Tony Watts? What up, brother? So I'm going to hand it to you, Derek Jones.
Tony Matt, what's going on, Tony Watts? You done shook the room up.
T. Watts.
Tony Massey, same question. Do you think we're aligned? Do you think yeah, I know we've gone through some generations or whatever, but do you think the views are vastly different, or are they more kind of similar now?
So I'm a real big I'm really big on men taking accountability, especially men who desire to be in leadership roles. We have definitely changed the conversation about sex. So much so that I believe we have normalized the desire for sex without emotion. And we see this in music, we see this in movies, we see this in entertainment and culture, where we spent 2 decades from, I would say, 86 to 2006, just redefining sex. I mean, through rap music and things like that, where we reduced women to body parts. We created narratives that, was vastly different than the love that was spoke about in music. And the byproduct is we've raised a generation who have disconnected from the emotional part of sex, so much so that women are seeking liberation through owning their bodies by expressing the same sexual desires that men have in music. But here's the reality. Everybody's lying. There comes a point in every man's life. Every man is going to mature to a point, some sooner than later, that the value of sex is directly tied to the emotional attachment you have to the person you're having sex with. If you enjoy sex without an emotional attachment, there's a fundamental flaw that's in you, that's emotional or mental or whatever the case may be, because sex is the physical manifestation of an emotional feeling. And if you can have sex without emotion, then you're not having sex per se, right? You're engaging in sexual activity, but essentially, and I hope this isn't too scandalous for our page, but it's masturbation at that point. You're just using another body in order to bring you to the same, euphoria that you could on your own. And that's what you're chasing after. That's what porn is. Pornography is, a quick way to get to that euphoric release. And then once the release happens, all of that buildup gets replaced with shame. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing with having sex with multiple women. And at some point, a man matures to the point where he says, I don't want to do this anymore. I want an emotional attachment. But here's the problem. He doesn't know how to do that. He doesn't know how to create that emotional attachment because he's been using women for sex for so long that he lacks the ability to trust the woman without putting sex on the table. These are the guys that lead off with, let me come over. Why don't you come over? Let's Netflix and chill. That's all. Because for years, they've equated that release with something positive. And if you're not willing to give it to them and they don't have that guarantee, then they're afraid to put their emotions on the table. And unfortunately, a lot of women, not a lot, some women have succumbed to the idea that if I don't do this, I could lose him. Well, if you have to do this, then you never had him. You just never did. And so I think that what men should do at this point is we need to invest in our young men and teach them that it's okay to abstain. It's perfectly okay. It's okay to be a virgin in your teens and in your 20s, especially if you're seeking something deeper. And when you finally do have sex, it should be a memorable experience. Whether it's a good experience or bad experience, it should be memorable. And every sexual encounter should have an emotional attachment to it. And we should go back and tell our women, your body belongs to you. And whether you give it to a man or not, it should be on the contingency that it's what I want to do. That's how we realign with sex. But right now, to answer the question, everybody's lying. Men are lying about how much sex they're having. Women are lying about the liberation that they're feeling through having sex without an emotional attachment. Everybody is full of crap. And it's all because we're allowing the social narrative to drive us to the point where no one is being pleased. I reached the point, and I'll land here. I reached the point probably mid 30s. It took me a while where unless I knew you, if I don't know you in a mental and emotional state, then I'm not willing to know you in a biblical way, because I don't want to pour something into you that I can't get back. Not only that, now we're attached in a way that makes me uncomfortable because I just gave you something of me. You just got put on a list that now has ramifications for me spiritually. And I don't want you out there, you know what I mean, walking around with me attached to you when I don't even know you like that. Now that's 35-year-old Tony. 25-year-old Tony, I was passing it out like free lunches. But what I didn't realize was I was giving away not just my body, but my mind and my soul. And it amounted to masturbation because I wasn't getting anything out of it but the release. And then after the release, followed shame.
Yes, sir. Collection plate time.
Yo, bro, that was excellent, bro.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback a little bit off of what Tony Massey just said. And I tell a lot of times my clients and women that I talk to about this too, when they utter the words, I can move out here just like a man. And I'm like, but you're not. There's a although on the surface it may look like women are out here with the sexual liberation and moving like a dude, there's a difference, right? We both have similar emotions. There's one of us who have been conditioned to suppress them. There's another one of you that necessarily hasn't been conditioned that way. So if I've been conditioned that way and I've behaved in a way my whole life, you live your whole life living the opposite way, and then somewhere here on the other side of the thing, you say, I'm going to be just like you. You know how many years of conditioning it took for me to suppress these emotions, and you're going to wake up one morning and say, I'm going to move like a dude? It's disastrous. We see it all the time. You're not built for that. Yes, men can be assholes sometimes. We can be, like Tony said, we're going around masturbating all over the place, right? And sometimes we're in the midst of doing it. We know that there's something missing. So the behavior that you're trying to mimic isn't even something that I necessarily feel like I want to do, or it's a fight to buck against it. You don't want these problems. You really don't want to be a dude. And that's why I always tell them, like, you're not a dude. There's a price to pay at the end of this, that we all, the repercussions way more than that one day or that one night or whatever it is. You don't want these problems. Live in your feminine, whatever you want to call it, in 22. Live in that and be you. You don't want these. You don't want this, because most of us don't want it. We grow up and we evolve into men, and we're in this age and we're, over 40 or whatever. And we're like, damn it. Like, those connections that I could have made if I would have just not gone that way that people told me was cool. The beauty and the magic and the connections that I could have made if I saw them a different way. That's why we're here on this panel now, is to tell these young gentlemen and young women, like, we have to see each other differently, so that when we do get to the point of having sex, that it's, whether you wait for marriage, a lot of people aren't. I'm not your judge. But when you enter into it, it comes from a space of intention. It comes from a space of connectivity that goes beyond, I like how your butt looks. And I'm going to leave that there. I don't know if you want in on this, Tony Watson. You want to wait for the next question?
Man, I want in. I want all the way in. Listen, Tony Massey, again, you killed it, because as you were saying that, I kept going, just tell them they masturbating. That's all you're doing. When you have unemotional sex, you're masturbating. You just happen to be using somebody else to do it. And Derek, what you said was profound as well. I had a young lady tell me before as well, I'm just going to be like you niggas. And I was like, so you want to be a nigga? She said, no, I'm not going to be a nigga. I said, no. Listen to what you say. I want to be a nigga. I said, do you understand the contents of that word and what all comes with that word? So you want to just not care about anybody. You just want to get out here and have all kinds of dudes running in and out of you. That's what you want? That's what you really want? She's like, no, but this is what y'all do. I said, stop doing what we do. We are out of our damn minds. Stop doing what we do. Because like Derek said, you are built different. Can you do it? Absolutely you can do it. Absolutely. Will it have an effect on you? Absolutely. And Tony said it best. Or Derek, when you get into this mode, you become unemotional, and then when you try to find your way out, because no one told you how to do the emotional attachment, it takes years to figure that out. And I think that's horrible for a woman. I think that's horrible for a man, but I also think that's horrible for a woman who's trying to connect with somebody, but all she can give is her body for connection. This whole sex thing is a whole different ball game, and we play with it like we playing with bubble gum under the table. It's nasty. We put it there, and we think that it's but we got to stop. It's like you guys said, it's time to teach the youth that it's okay to sustain, and also if you're going to do it, you have to have parameters of what you're doing. You have to understand what you're getting into. You have to understand what you're getting into, because a lot of us lost our minds. I lost my mind, and when I first popped in, so you're right, girls are icky, and Rick, Dirty Diana, huh? I had one of those too. Kissed my first girl in kindergarten under the table. Never forget that. Absolutely. So great discussion so far, gents. Appreciate it.
If I can just add one thing to what Derek and Tony said, I think is important. You're right. Women, when I hear women say, I'm just going to do what men do, not only are you not emotionally equipped to handle what we're trying to, what we're doing, what we have an advantage that you don't have, and that is years of learning to repress those feelings. So when I go out and do my dirt, I'm still dealing with the aftermath, the emotional aftermath of either hurting someone, of the emptiness of what I've just done, or whatever the case may be. But for years, I've been practicing how to push down my emotions and not confront myself with what I feel. There aren't too many women that know how to do that, right? Because some women, I don't want to treat women like a monolith, but some women wear their emotions on their sleeves, and I've seen that when I've talked to women who are out here just doing their thing. They, or try to get into that friend with benefits situation, and all of a sudden you're catching feelings, right? And it's not that men don't catch feelings. It's just that we've had years of practice repressing those feelings. And so we're feeling it. We just don't show it because we know how to hide our emotions in a way that women don't.
Yeah, Derek, real quick. And Tony, just to add to what Tony's saying, when here's the difference. You guys receive what we're giving you. You guys are takers. You guys are taking us in. So to have multiple men and be unemotional about that, that's a whole different ball game. And I hope y'all don't understand. I hope you don't look at this as we're coming down on women and saying that you can do whatever you want to do, right? You have that sexual freedom to explore and do what you want to do, but you have to really look at the contents of how sex was created, right? And if we don't look at that whole thing, we're going to continually get this thing wrong. Little boys are going to be running around chasing tail. Little girls are going to be saying, "Buy me a pocketbook and you can use my body." So we need to change that narrative as soon as possible.
Yeah, this I know for an absolute fact we ain't gonna get to all these questions I got. So I'm gonna try to strategically. I'm looking at the clock and I'm like, this is good, but we're not gonna dance. No, I don't know how far we may need to do a second show or something, but ain't no way. So I'm but yeah, that part, that last thing that we were just talking about, if you learn nothing else from this show, ladies, men who move like that, right? Who move without emotion. Every instance, we're losing a part of ourselves moving like that. And then we have to spend time regaining it. You don't want these problems. I would say that again. You don't want it. It doesn't, there's nothing good that comes from it. I don't care who you are, man or woman, but y'all, like Tony, both Tony said, y'all haven't spent this time. We don't want it. As all five of us up here, however we was raised, whatever we've learned to repress and try to regain and find, you know how many years we lost without it, without the clarity, without the knowing, which way we should move. You don't want to start on that path of you 40. There's nothing cute about that. So anyway, we're gonna get a couple of questions left before we hit our time. Let me go to let me hunt and peck some of these out here. Okay, so here's the next question under the love category. Have you ever been in love and later realized that it wasn't love? And if so, what were the things that you know now that could be misinterpreted as love, but now you know that if you saw it that way again, that's definitely not it. That makes sense? Tony Massey.
Yeah, I'll be really brief, I promise. I've always, until within the last, I'd say 10 years, I've had a really hard time confusing love and lust. And here's the reason. Here's what love, for me, here's the difference. Lust, I will take you as you present yourself as long as it's consistent with everything I want. But you cannot be flawed. You cannot make mistakes. You cannot, disappoint me. You cannot, you can't step outside the box that I've put you in. You got to stay there. Because if you do, lust is not going to cover you. Lust is like the general insurance, and love is like State Farm. You know what I mean? It's a different ball game. So for me, love, not to get biblical, but it covers the multitude. I can see past your, not even see past your flaws. I can accept your flaws. And most importantly, the difference between love and lust for me is who I present. Lust forces me to be that same perfection that I expect. Lust has me doing things that I'm not comfortable with doing. Lust is a pleaser. It's an end of the world. Oh my God, I'm going to die without you type thing, where love to me is a lot more natural. And so there have been times where there was a time in particular, I dated someone. I did what I call time travel in my book. I went back and dated someone I dated before. And it was the memory and the nostalgia of what we had in high school that made me think I'm in love. And then all of a sudden I started seeing her, not for the 16-year-old girl that I loved, but for the 32-year-old woman that I did not know. And so that she was not the 16-year-old girl that I loved when I was 16. She was this totally different person, and I did not like her at all. And so that's where, to me, love and lust kind of butt up against each other. How I present and my expectations of what she presents.
So I'm gonna jump in I'm gonna be real quick on this one. I think I did definitely at the moment I was saying the words, I was doing the motions. 10, 15 years later, I look back on it and I'm like, I wasn't really in love. And I think for me, the me now, what I would say to the younger me is that person just being present in the comfort of knowing that they were there wasn't enough. But back then it was, because I was at their house, they was at my house, we watching TV together. It was comfortable. Whatever the reasons I was attaching to her, whether it was something from childhood or whatever it was, I called that love in that moment without checking off the boxes of connectivity and the things that's supposed to make us bind with each other. Wasn't none of that there. I was just happy somebody was there that I could lay next to. And that was the qualifier for me. So the me now would say that you didn't even ask questions. Like you were in a relationship for like 6 months, a year, and you haven't even figured out who this person is. How could you possibly love this person and you don't even know them? And that kind of is a little slight piggyback to what Tony Massey was saying. So that's what I would say, that what I know now could be confused as love, but I believe that it's really not. I think it's sometimes we just want somebody there, and we'll say the words and go through the motions and put titles on the relationship and everything, and not even really understand where we are. So I'm going to go over to Gunter Man on this.
Yeah, thank you. Where do I begin? When I look back at the people that I fell in love with, and when I look over the story with this mind, not with the mind that I had back then, I realized that maybe simply growing up as an entertainer, I sought after that adventure. The adventure of the high, of the new connecting and feeling these things. Because when I stop and I think about where did I mess up in relationships, it was always when my emotion went searching for things or wanting things more than the truth that was in front of me. Meaning that in these connections where I thought I felt love, I didn't feel that I could trust them. And I don't think that I ever felt really safe with them. And safety for a guy, even though you think it's a woman thing to look for safety in a man, it's a man thing too. To find safety, a safe place to rest my head. You know, when I look back, I got so caught up over and over again with the adventure being epic. The things we were going to, what we were doing in the moments, or the sex, that was all epic, epic, epic. But at the core, like Derek Jones said, I really didn't even know her. I didn't even know her, nor I pushed past so many red flags going just for the high, the adventure, that when I looked at her after a while, I was like, I don't even love you. Because like Tony Massey said, love will make you overlook a multitude of sin to try to figure out how can I make this work, when it's this true essence of not only the love, the feeling of love, where there's a commitment, a love of commitment, where that person, that female, is committed to you by her actions, whether I'm standing next to her or not, that she is going to make sure that she is proving to her friends as well as to me when I'm present that she is committed to me. And you can feel that in a relationship because, you know, we spot those little things that are off. We'll spot those things that are off. The next part of it is safe. Do I feel safe that I can share my innermost, and she's going to not only hear it, but respect it. Hear it and respect it, and also even support it. Cheer me on, knowing that I'm struggling with a thing, and that I can feel that safe, that she's going to have my back. She has my blind spots covered. She's going to tap me on the shoulder and say, hey, these are the things that you're missing out, or maybe you can consider this, or maybe you can consider this. And then the last part is trust. Can I fully trust her? You're so caught up in the adventure, you're not even considering how is she showing herself over and over and over again to you. Can you actually trust her? Can you trust her? None of us even talked about, when you talk about love, the financial side of life. Are we financially compatible? You know, you're so caught up in feeling these particular things. There's an alignment level of not only making sure that a person is speaking to your core needs, but there's a financial side of it. Are you financially compatible also? Does that make a difference on where you're traveling to? I see Tony Massey shaking his head, right? Like there's some real truth to that. So when I look back at that which I called love, I really can define it as almost like lust, because I had so many people in my past that I really didn't know how to do a relationship. I had no clue. You talk about hundreds of just, as he says, masturbation, going and going and going and going and going and going in moments and having these. But when it came to, can you now do a relationship? I had no clue. No sign of commitment. No, I had no habit of working through problems with them and kind of coming through solutions. I had none of that. Soon as little ripples come, you move on to the next one. And it almost felt natural. Like I couldn't even tell you why that situation ended. No clue. No clue. It's just how you just moved along. So yeah, when you go and you live that lifestyle as a man, this culture, and you're going out there just going and going and going and going, you're not developing what you need when it starts to come to really matter to you. When it really starts to matter to you, you're going to kick yourself for doing that crap. You're going to kick yourself over and over again because you have developed no sense of commitment. You develop no sense of real inner trust that I'm willing to stand with you and fight for you if I have to. You have developed no type of safety where the woman as well as yourself are in environments where you both can feel like this is a good place to be. You have developed all that, and then it hits you in the face when you really want to do it because you don't know how to do it. You don't know how to do it. And then that's when they talk about marriage isn't the great, bringing together of the two. It's the great revealer of the two. It's the great revealer because you're around that person all the time. They know when you don't take a bath. You know what I'm saying? They can see those little idiosyncrasies, how you don't rise or how you compare yourself, that those things start to reveal. And the truth of how you continue to present yourself, they see it all. Like don't try to fake it. Matter of fact, if I know the rhythm of how you make love and all of a sudden you making love differently, I'm like, hey, that's something completely new. What have you been doing? What have you been watching? It's that because they're in your face all the time. They can tell if the rhythm changes. I'll land there.
All right, John Singletary, you're up.
What's the question?
Have you ever been in love at some point and then later realized that it really wasn't love? And if so, what does the you now look back on that and say, this is why I thought it was love, and I probably now I know better. If it ever happened again, that thing that made me think it was love, yeah, we're not doing that.
It didn't sound like that question was that long the first time you asked it.
I'm giving you a whole bunch of extra stuff so you can be concise in your answer, sir.
Okay. Concisely, the answer is no. I don't got a lot of the same stories y'all have, which I think is cool. I think the times that I was in relationship and I thought I was in love and I wasn't, I think there was a really strong emotional bond, but being able to unpack it with the benefit of hindsight, I was able to say I was really into her, but that wasn't love. But I really did think it was at the time. So yeah, that's my answer. Concise.
Very good, sir. We're going to I have a little star I'm going to put next to your name over here. We good now. So, Tony Watts, you on mute.
Let's go back to tell John to turn his joint back on because his son is DJing in that real music right there. You know what I mean? So to answer the question, of course, I've been in that joy, that infatuation stage. Let's not call it love because that's not what it was. It was infatuation. We had a good time, like Rick said. We had a good time. We met up. You meet somebody and they're exciting. They check all of your fun boxes. We'll call it the fun boxes. You go out, you party, and they do all the party things that you do, and you're doing wild stuff. You're doing it on the train. You're doing it in the car. You're doing all the things that's fun in the movies. And oh wow, I love her. No, you don't love her. You just love what you guys do together. That's not love. And it's easy to figure that out because when something hard comes along, if it's a crisis or if it's an argument and you don't care how she feels, then right there, I don't love this person. Oh, Tony, I'm going home and I'm never coming back. Bye. That's at that particular moment, I do not love you. you had a space that you helped fill, and that was it. So
Bye,
absolutely.
Felicia.
Absolutely, we've been there, like absolutely been there across the board, and I think what complicates the question when we say have we ever been in love before and then switched it, but I understand what you were doing. It's infatuation. We all go through it because some people are just extremely beautiful and all of their essence, and we fall for that first without getting to know what's on the inside, and then we get lost. Like, oh wow, oh wait a minute. You don't brush your teeth? You don't. You wore that for. Wait, you had that on 2 days? Like, what do you? And you go to the house is messy. You start really rethinking everything that you're doing. Like, So absolutely. We've been there. Unfortunately, more than once. But it's the learning curve. It's the learning period. And you guys are doing a fantastic job tonight. I love the conversation. It's definitely deep.
Who are these poor hygienic women that you and Gunna Man are running into? Like,
no.
What the hell?
Tony, we from Texas. They don't do it like that where we from.
We take baths with washcloths.
I hope everybody does. Or what's that spongy thing? Yeah,
But that's the truth. When you get into these relationships, it's like, all right. When I thought I absolutely was in love for the absolute first time, like Lord have mercy. Like, I don't think I've ever felt for a woman this way before. But that was quickly nullified by the things that she was unable to do, or not simply unable to do, that didn't match my core needs. Because I don't want to make her the nigga, because she's perfectly perfect for the person that's right for her. For myself, it wasn't meeting my core needs. I was watching, I was like, I don't think I could trust her. And then once I couldn't trust her, everything else went out the window. Everything. I mean, and was still craving the infatuation. It was still craving the hoping that we can do a little something and maybe she'll change. No, you're still craving all that stuff. But in truth, she will never be what I needed in a woman, in a wife, in a person that I would want to trust and feel safe. Because once that's not there, once you see that stuff, and I tell that to all my clients, once your mind is stretched, it can never go back. It can never go back to what it was. Once you know some new information, the more information I got, the more red flags I kept pushing past, it just got uglier and uglier and uglier. But at my core, my parts of me was like, I still want her so bad. But she will never be able to match the things that I would actually need for love to be real, or to feel and to last, for it to feel real and to last.
So I'm gonna strategically pick these now. This one. This question, I'm gonna just read it. So, is sex a requirement? And I know a couple of us are going to have to go into the past. Is sex a requirement before you make a commitment? AKA post-nut clarity.
What's that?
Did you just say AKA post-nut clarity?
Do you need that before you make the commitment?
Man, that's a whole hashtag right there. I love it.
So you can talk about the current you or the past you. I don't really care. But yeah, we just shook the room a little bit.
So
Tony Massey?
Yeah, I'll be honest, man. I want to be the guy that says, I could commit to you with that. No, because and the reason I say no is because I this is not something that I can brag about, but I pride myself in being someone who doesn't cheat, because I've cheated before. I cheated on my son's mother when we were married, and it was devastating. And I didn't realize how my actions it's like throwing that rock into a pond, and those ripples have been going for years. And now that my son is married, I'm very, transparent about how my actions impacted me in that time and how they're still impacting me 20 years later, as it relates to, just being in relationships and things of that nature. So because of that reason, I'm not going to commit myself to someone who I have the potential to be sexually incompatible with, because for me, sex is a very important part of a relationship. And I'm not going to say, hey, you're my one and only to find out that, we're not compatible sexually. And when I say not compatible, I don't mean we're awkward, because it's going to be awkward the first time for some, not every time, but for sometimes it's going to be awkward the first time. But I mean, we just don't vibe in the bedroom. And so I don't know. And I struggle with this because, I'm a man of faith. But I don't know. I this sounds very crass, but I'm not buying this car without a test drive. I know that sounds horrible, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not. So I'll land there.
So we're going to go to Tony Watts, because I see you doing it.
Yes.
Let's get.
So I appreciate Tony's honesty, and I'm glad that we were able to get me to this particular point, because I wanted to bring this up during this conversation. And this is why we need to talk to the youth, right? The whole reason why we need test drives is because we've been test driving things for so long that we don't understand that now you have to be compatible with me in that way for us to understand where we're going, right? So if you take two people who have never had sex before, right, and they get together, they get to learn what sex looks like together. So they don't have any expectations of he gonna, pull my hair and smack my butt, or
no comparisons.
There's no comparisons that you have. There is no, oh, she gotta have a big booty, she gotta have big. You don't have any of that. You just have two innocent people finding their way through what sex is, right? So this is the thing that complicates where we are today. It complicates it. And I fully understand where we are. I'm there too. I'm not going to be like, some holier than thou that I don't understand what's going on. But we have to get to the mindset that we have taken on so many different people and their actions, right? That we have to have something that mimics that thing that made us feel the best. I'm going to equate it to crack. When you have, people tell you, when you first get that hit of crack, I've never done it, to put it out there before John says so, that you continue to chase that high. So the person that really turns you on in a certain way, you're equating everybody else that you deal with that particular person, and that's the way you got to do it. So when you get into that kind of rhythm, it kind of doesn't leave space for me to get to know her to get to know me. Because let's say the first two or three times we do it, and we hit and missing, we kind of not. He just don't do it for me, or she just don't. We haven't figured each other out yet because we're looking for that other thrill. So there needs to be a lot of conversation. What I like, what I don't like, why I like this. What am I willing to be patient about? So if you can have those type of conversations before sex, then fine. But if you just like, I met you, I'm in that infatuation stage, I'm going to bang it out, and it don't work out, you haven't given each other a chance to figure that whole thing out yet. But it's a real subject. So
let me ask this, Tony Wise. I'm sorry to the other guys, but I'm willing to delay sex as long, for as long to get to know. But I'm talking about the question of commitment, meaning you're it. I'm not dating anyone else. You're not dating anyone else. We are on our way to something significant. to me, that's how I took the question.
Right.
I can wait. I can wait 6 months. I can wait a year.
No,
I can wait however.
You were on point with what you said. You're on point. What I'm trying to say is, because we've had sexual relationships before, right? And we know what we want sexually. We don't give the other person a fair chance to show up or to learn what we do together, because we've learned so many other traits that we have to have. I have to have my neck big. I have to have her do this. She's never done that before. And she might feel awkward in doing it, but until she gets comfortable around me, she might do it. But I'm letting her go because she don't want to do that. Excuse me for being crass. She don't know how to give head. So teach her. What? We too grown that we can't teach people how to touch us? We too grown for that? Everybody got to come with the manual book that with the professional certificates. Hey, look, I'm a professional. No, let's work this out. That's all I'm saying. Like I said, Tony, you were spot on with what you said. You spot on. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to take it from kids learning sex now, believing what they need to have, because I hear a lot of women and men say, yo, she's perfect for me, but she doesn't do this in bed. And I'm going, you're going to leave her because she doesn't do X, Y, Z in bed? You're not going to give her an opportunity to learn? Really? And women do the same thing on the other side. I'm going, really? All right. So now you're chasing everybody else when you had the perfect thing that you could have just took your time and you guys could have figured it out. I'm going to lay the plane there.
You know, this makes me think of that when we have sex, we lose the fact that it's supposed to be another form of communication. We lose the fact that it's supposed to be another way of communicating, not comparing. It's another form of communication, not comparing. If we compare, then we're going to constantly have these problems. How does this person make you feel? What do you see yourselves doing as a couple, and seeing that the way that she sees life and speaks to the core need of you, and the way he sees life speaks to the core of you, and that these nuances that you laugh constantly about things, that you feel light, and then you're inspired by each other. You're inspired because you know you want to go after someone that inspires you, someone that makes you see life in a new way, or pushes your boundaries, like corrects you, like, wow, I didn't even think of it that way. That all that magic in that prior to sex, all that magic, you're willing to now throw it away because you're going to get into the bed and do a full comparison thing. Oh, it's not this. Oh, it's not that. Really? What happened to lovemaking being another form of communication that is supposed to reach further than all these other things that are in alignment with you? What happened to it being that communication and not this simple comparison? Because you're like, what if she's not that great in bed? What if he's not that great in bed, but has all these, or she has all these other things that speaks volumes to your core needs? What do you do then? What do you do then? You constantly wonder about just the sex thing? You just simply wonder about the sex thing and not.
You sign up with a class with Cheryl Thomas.
Say that again.
You sign up with a class with Cheryl Thomas. Y'all both go to the class together and work it out.
Yeah, like you'll have people that you're having sex with, and they get caught up. Well, let me stop this because of what they've been through in the past. Well, let me not do this because of what they've been through in the past. And then you're like, stop. Why are we not just enjoying this? Stop already. Stop saying, oh, you might not like, well, let me try this. No, wait, stop. Right now, we're just communicating. Don't compare to what you used to do. Let's just communicate. This is what's fun. The touches, the laughter, the rawness, the rage, all that stuff comes with, let it be built off of all the things you have manifested and built up with the emotional side of things. But yes, the sex is important. It's super duper important. But why are you comparing it to a bunch of dudes that evidently wasn't right for you. A bunch of women that weren't right for you. And now that you have someone that you actually are really connecting and you can see yourself a future with them, now you're looking as like saying, I wish she would have done, soon she will be yours. And you guys together with this, when you could tug at a heart in such a way that connects and speaks to them, you think they're not going to be willing to try new things? You think they're not going to be open to try to stretch these new bounds? And yeah, but if no communication is going on, especially in that category, you don't know. You have no clue. It's supposed to be another form of communication. And so often we forget that.
John Singletary.
What you want?
I don't even know.
Nah. Man, man, salute to y'all. I'm really agnostic about it, man, because I don't know. Well, I think only me and Tony Massey go to the barbershop. So I don't know how they talk at y'all barbershop, but this ain't how they talk at mine. So I don't know. I thought this was real shop talk, but no judgment. Before I got married, we abstained. It was my idea. Ended up being divorced. So I've done that before. Did it before where, tried it out. I'm still single. So it didn't work that way either. So, I mean, I'm just saying, like to each their own, real talk, man. Like, I mean, and I get it. Like, there's a crowd here that there's a leaning towards the biblical, and I respect that and I appreciate that. But when we talk about functionally, that don't fly for everybody. And for some folks, like you got folks that'll be getting it in from the second date and will be married 30, 40 years happily ever after. And you got people that'll abstain, get married, and be done in a year and a half, 2 years. So, I mean, for me, I don't really put I don't put that on there that, hey, I have to, probably part of that is because it's been a minute since I've been in a commitment, so I really don't know. But I think sex needs to be emotionally safe. And when I say emotionally safe, it's got to be in a place where it's mutually agreed upon. It's non-coercive. It's healthy in ways that can build up the relationship. And for those that feel like that should be until you are in the safe place of a marriage, then I can appreciate and respect that because I've been there. And for those that believe that, because I've said it before, I could be somebody and we get busy on the first date. That don't mean that we ain't going to be in a relationship. It just meant that we had some good times early. We had a connection. It hasn't happened. I'm just saying that's just hypothetical. But still, it's got to be emotionally healthy. That's the thing that I say. And if you feel like you need to test the goods out and test drive, because that's what society has said. There's a lot of stuff that society has said, and the shit works, and we do it. So, it is what it is.
So I'm gonna say this about this. I've done it all. I've done it. The abstinence thing, I don't even know what that means. I think
they was killing me they was killing me in the comments when they kept saying post nut clarity. Every time I saw that,
Yo, that's a thing, man. That's a very sobering moment.
Yep. Yeah. So I think I think for a lot of people it is a requirement to test it out before you call somebody a girlfriend or a boyfriend. They need to know the nuance and more to lean on to a little bit of what John said, a little bit of what Rick said. This is the 2021 Derek speaking now. once you get to a certain age, right, and you've been with a couple folks, that comparison list grows. And then when you meet this new person that you like and they're checking off all the check boxes, and then now you have to qualify them by what you now at 40 something, 50 something year old say that this is what you need to have in order for you to feel satisfied. Now you're kind of in a kind of like a weird gray area because you're not going to get everything you need. It's in a perfect world, you get all of it. Some places you're going to have to probably take some sacrifices, and sometimes that area might be sex. So here's the thing. This is 2021 Derek speaking. When some people place it so high on the priority list as a requirement, there's a downside to that, even if it's amazing. And if it is such a requirement that it is a deal breaker for you, what happens when somebody gets diabetes or something don't happen because you're getting older? And do you leave? Because you have this requirement that's a deal breaker for you, right? And you know, we always hear these people saying, well, they're not doing it like they used to do it when we first met. You're 65. You can't. Them knees cracking, the Charlie horses kicking in. You're not, and this is real. So then what do you do when you have that requirement that it must be a certain way? You got to really look at, and that's not to say don't chase good sex. What I'm saying is you got to look at when you're getting it with the person, all of the other stuff on that priority list of sex is number one, you're going to be disappointed over time. Guaranteed. You're not, it ain't going to be like that 15 years, 20, 30, 50 years in. Good luck. Some people out here can do that. But if that's your deal breaker, you went for a rude awakening. Go ahead, Tony. I see Tony Massey shaking in his boots over there.
Yeah. So can we go back to what John was saying at the beginning? And I get what you guys are saying, and I agree with you to a certain extent. But John mentioned something in the beginning of the show that I think is important to this conversation, and that is the way men view sex as a token of love, right? Mm-hmm. I've been in a sexless marriage or even a sexless relationship, and it's not fun. You know, it's because, and I know this isn't right, but the tendency is to look inward for the problems. So we're not having sex because you're not interested in me, because I'm the problem. You obviously want to be with someone else. And I get that I'm making it about me when it probably isn't. However, that need has to be filled. And I'm not justifying cheating either, because it's wrong. And there's no justification for cheating. But a selfish man, which I wasn't willing to wait to work it out, or even I wasn't old enough or mature enough to communicate how necessary it was, because she didn't view it as a necessary element. For her, what was necessary was the bonding and the emotion, that part. The physical part wasn't necessary, because for her, we had all this other stuff. And we even had this conversation, we have fun together. We go out, we do all of these fun things. Why does this have to be a part of it? And it's because for me, that's the equivalent of all of those things that you're getting, all those. I'm feeling your bucket. Your bucket is getting filled. Mine is still empty because we're missing this part. And so I became vulnerable. And again, I'm not excusing my behavior. I take full responsibility. I became vulnerable and lazy because here's someone who's willing to pour into me in that way. And so I took the path of least resistance. And I wish there was a way to communicate to women that it's not just about me being, dirty or horny and all this other. this is how I receive love as a man. It's an important part. Now, if there's a medical reason why we're abstaining, and I get that part. But if it's I'm tired or I just don't feel like that's a part of it anymore, gosh, man, that's hard. And so that's why I push back on the idea that we can have all of these wonderful things and then the sex is trash. And now I'm going to throw the whole relationship away because the sex is trash. No, it's because the sex is not understood as a pivotal part. And I think sometimes we downplay it so we don't look bad, right? We downplay it, the importance of it, so we don't look like that guy. But the reality is that when the door is closed and you're dealing with that emptiness and that feeling of rejection and that feeling of, whatever, it's a big deal. And now you got to put on a happy face and go out there and pretend like everything is okay. Well, meanwhile, you're literally empty because no one is pouring into you because it's not supposed to be that important. But it is.
Can I push back, please? Just not like a push, but like
wow, no pushback.
I'm pushing back, damn it.
No.
So I'm gonna give you a scenario, right?
All right, I got next.
No, but before you push back, can I just say something really, really, really quick? All right?
Yeah.
I think what's missing in this whole thing is, right? We have a lot of people that who do not enjoy sex come from a place of shame, or they don't think it's right. Like it's something that really gets in there that they, why I don't feel right. God created sex. He told Adam and Eve, go be fruitful and multiply. This is what we have to tell the kids. Go be fruitful and multiply. There's no shame here. Right? So if in your head, my man needs this, but I don't feel comfortable for whatever in my past happened or whatever things are going on. Most people, when you talk to them and you go back down to that why is it? It's some deep-rooted thing that they don't view sex as a necessity that was created for couples to do, to have joy with each other. And when you don't have that, you miss everything that we're talking about. Thank you. I'm done.
So I'm gonna say that you want to get in, Singletary.
Hell yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm with Tony Massey all the way. Like, and Tony Watts hit the nail on the head. Like, yes, we got to have some kind of pause about it or whatever, but this idea that sex is such a bad thing. So like you in a relationship and her emotional tank needs to be filled. And you're doing everything and like every day. If you're not filling my emotional tank, I feel some kind of way. But then it's like, choo. But then you're like, well, I need sex. And it's like, well, we can have sex on our anniversary and on your birthday. Like, that's craziness. That is madness to think that sex ain't as important. Don't put sex at the top. Don't put it at the top. That I'm with you on that. But don't act like, oh yeah, well, there's gonna be a point where you don't have sex, but there's gonna be plenty of times when you do. You know what I mean? A lot of the relationship is gonna be a good relationship, in my opinion, gonna have a lot of sex. Like, what are you talking about when you were honeymooning and all that? Oh, we was getting it in, we was this, that, and the other, because of the connection. So what I believe we're saying, I know I'm saying it, and what I believe my boy Tony Massey, my brother, is saying is let's not minimize it or try to make it seem like it's a negative or like it's not as important as anything else.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm going to push back a little bit on. So here's my push. I don't even know if I can call it that. I'm not saying accept trash sex. I'm not even saying accept lack of sex. What I'm saying is that let's pretend that you meet this woman. She has all you need. And the sex on a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 500. It's the most perfect sex you could ever have in your life, right? It meets your requirements.
Where's she at?
I don't know, man. she might be in Atlanta. I don't know.
500 sex. I'm like, where she at?
I'm just saying, whatever your
Me and my
embodiment
negative
of
7
perfect
trying
for
to find a
you.
500, huh?
Let's say you have that woman, right? And it's amazing and it's perfect. It's everything you ever dreamed of your whole life, 10 lifetimes. It's the perfect thing, right? You get into this relationship. This is how you're showing your love to her. She's getting what she wants. You're getting what you want. It's amazing. This is your requirement and it's met. 5 years later, you got 3 kids. She's depressed. She's stressed out. She might not want to go there like you want to go there, but it's your requirement. What do you do?
I'll answer that question.
Say that.
No, you know what? I love that you brought this up because here's the thing. I have a huge issue with the idea that as a man, I have to accept your life changes, right? But you don't have to accept mine. I still got to come and do all the things that you expect a husband to do. And if I don't do those things, I'll be held accountable. But because we're talking about sex and we got kids and you're tired and this and that, it's still an important part of the relationship. So if you're depressed, if there's some, let's get these things fixed. Let's go to the doctor. And I'm willing to wait. And I'm even willing to put it on the back burner because we're trying to fix the situation. Even if there is no fix, if the doctor comes and says, I'm sorry, this is probably never going to be fixed. Okay, at least we tried. But the approach is always you, the man, should understand me, the woman, that I don't want to do this.
I'm saying either way.
But
no matter which direction it goes in, what I'm saying is a lot of this stuff could be long term, right?
And I'm willing to wait.
It's your requirement. I'm not even talking about medically. I'm just talking about everyday life. You wanted it the same way you got it when you first met her, right?
No, not the same way.
No,
not the same way. But I do want the same passion. I want the same. I want the same effort. Now, you may not be able to do the things that you used to do, you know, that little trick you do with the little bump, that thing. You may not be able to do that, but I want that same energy. Right. I want the same energy.
Right. And what you said, Derek,
the energy without the technique is fine with me.
Okay.
And
that's
tired,
what I was getting at.
Them my kids too. So I could do something to help her not be so tired.
Now, I will say, yes, John, I will say that for the men who are complaining about sex, but they're not helping their spouses out. And when I say help, I don't mean do the dishes every once in a while. I mean, understand, this is why I have such a problem with the 50-50 mindset, right? Or this idea that this is women's work and this is men's work. If something is something needs to be done, do it. You don't need to sit and wait for somebody else to take care of something. Now, I do think that because of safety reasons, like, again, we talked about this before. I don't like it when my wife puts gas in her car, just because I feel, especially here in Atlanta, she's very vulnerable. But if the dishes need to be washed or I see that the clothes are in the dryer, I'm going to knock all that out. I'm going to actively remove as much from her plate as I can so that she doesn't have that excuse. I'll take care of the kids. I'll do all this. I'll be proactive. But if I'm doing all this stuff, and it's not quid pro quo, I'm not saying, hey, you know, knock them dishes out. What's up? You know what I mean? I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is I'm going to meet you halfway. I'm going to do what I can to lighten the load. So you can't use those things as excuses. Let's get to the real issue.
Right. I'm with you.
Have we reached an impasse? Have I done something? Because here's the thing that I don't talk about. I cheated, but I also contributed it to the lack of sex that facilitated the cheating. And that is, I forgot my role as a husband. I wasn't a good husband. I was a good father, but I wasn't a good husband. I got lackadaisical. I stopped paying attention to her. I stopped making her feel important. I stopped putting her at the forefront of my life. And I started believing the idea that I was better alone, even in my marriage. But I was young, and this is why I'm not an advocate of people getting married young, because it takes a while to find yourself. So as I'm being introduced to this other version of me, I don't like this baggage that I'm bringing with me, even though I'm the one that bought it, packed it, you know what I mean, the whole nine. And so I stopped being a good husband, and I started using that excuse as a means to find my exit. So I pushed her to the point where she didn't want to have anything. I wouldn't have had sex with me either, but I didn't take all of that into consideration. I just allowed that to justify my behavior. And then that's how I lost myself and my family at that point. And that's the message that I try to give to my son, that as a married man, you don't have to behave a certain way. You just got to remember you made a promise, you made a commitment. And because of that, there is a certain level of, there's a certain way you carry yourself. Are you going to be tempted? Yes, we're all tempted. Hell, I'm tempted now. But you have to understand the consequences of succumbing to that temptation. But as a woman, you have to also understand that you can't just allow the day-to-day, the rigmarole to allow you to deprioritize sex. Just like I'm not allowed to deprioritize my wife and her needs and the things that she wants to do because I'm tired or because I worked up. No, it's still a priority because we made a commitment. We made a promise to each other, and sex was a part of it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this. I know you want to say something too, Rick. So I'm speaking to not you, Tony Massey. I'm speaking to a population of men that I hear on a daily basis that say age, life, be damned. It needs to be the same as when we met, or I can't. This is I always tell these people, you haven't aged yet. Your knees still work. Your health is still intact. And when we get to a point where I'm not saying no sex, I'm saying adapting to the environment sex as you grow older, as life happens, it's not going to look the same. But I always hear this thing about she ain't doing it the way she used to. So that's why I have to move a certain way or do a certain thing because this is the way that I require it to be. And I'm like, 20 years later, 15 years later, it's not going to look like day one. So stop holding people, men and women. I know a lot of dudes out here with high blood pressure that's like, damn it, man, I don't, diabetes. And they like, I want to, but it's not, I got to figure this out. And if a woman was like, well, he ain't putting it down like he used to, so that's who I'm talking to. These people be ringing out loud and I'm like, yo, like life happens, you work with it and you figure it out. I'm not saying take sex off the table, but it's gonna probably be different. That's all I'm saying. So anyway, I'm landing my plane.
What I'd like to jump in and say real quick is this last 15 minutes of conversation needs to be clipped out and sent to the kids, because this is what it's really about. Because men, and I did the same thing Tony did. It was about me. I checked out. I didn't help around the house. You know what I mean? We had a nanny, so the kids was taken care of. I come home, I go to sleep. You know what I mean? I go take my nap before I go hang out with my boys. So there was things that needed to get done. When she came home from working a 12-hour shift and doing all the corporate things she was doing, here's this thing. She was a mover. So when she came home, if something was done, she continued to move through it. When I came home, if I didn't feel like doing it, I'm not doing it. But see, that's where all of a sudden it becomes a shift, and I don't want to be bothered with you because I have all this other stuff to be bothered with. And what Tony said is so important. If we're not prioritizing each other, if we're not in that fight together, then sex becomes a non-factor because I don't want to touch you. I don't like you. You don't do anything for me because I don't respect you anymore. And this is what these people have to understand. And the people that Derek is talking to, and I want to talk to you guys real quick too. You are selfish bastards. I'm going to say it again. You are selfish bastards. Because if you think that she is on command for you just because you feel she needs to be on command for you, you are out of your damn mind. Out of your mind. So until you get to a point where you understand the mutual benefits of a loving relationship, the give and takes that it takes to space, just to be in that space you got my back no matter what. Sex is not an issue. When you sit down and talk to these people about why they're not having, why this, that, outside of the sex just being whack, right? Let's take that off the table. It's due to core, no communication, nobody's helping anybody, and everybody's running in their own direction. That's what it's due to. So if you want to have a loving, lasting relationship that's bountiful with sex and everything is beautiful all around, you guys got to continue to communicate. You guys got to continue to focus on each other, and you guys have to have a vision. You don't have a vision for what the relationship looks like, you're lost. You're lost. So about that, Rick. I just need to get that off my chest real quick.
No, I think it's great. I think it's great because, you know, when we think about these relationships, especially when you go through rough patches, when you go through your rough patches, are you going to let those rough patches so stain your heart that you no longer want to show up? Because that was me. I let verbal words said to me, I let it dig in deep, and it rooted, and it just got infested. It got ugly. I was in a sexless marriage for so many years. It was insane because I let the words, I let my passion, how I gave towards life, be affected by the words that she used on me when we had those fallouts that I just, like you said, I checked out by year 3, be 2.5. I was somewhere else. You know, I wasn't, after her long day of work, I wasn't doing the things that the husband should be doing. You had a long day. Let me offload you. Now, once again, since she worked tons and tons of time and I was the entertainer, so I only pretty much worked on Saturdays and Fridays, I wasn't allowing her to come home to a place where she was now being comforted by my touch. After wrestling with the world as a lawyer out there, beating the world, beating it back and fighting for people's rights, she was coming home to a place where her own man wasn't holding her, wasn't touching her, wasn't pulling her near and say, let me just rub your feet. Matter of fact, if your feet are stinky, let me wash your feet. Giving her that release, taking the leadership role and seeing the things that are going wrong in a relationship and doing something about it. And sometimes that means therapy. Going to have a conversation with someone, having a conversation with you and your wife and saying, this is what's going on. This is what needs to be done. And then to work on it, say like, how can we make this situation better? I didn't do none of that. I didn't do any of that because I've been through a whole entire, a lifetime of sex from the age of 13, 14, 15 years old, having sex, that I had no clue how to do a relationship. And I had the Bible and I was into the word, but applying none of it to my wife. So year after year, no sex was mind blowing for myself because I'm like, fucking you. If I don't feel this way, I ain't trying to do it with you. If I don't feel this way, your words rip me to shreds. Why would I be interested in touching you? Why would I want to put my hands on you in that way? As Tony Watts said, why would I? But I wasn't realizing your job, Rick. As the leader, spot what's going on, be the peacekeeper in the family, and figure it out. Figure it out. Have those hard conversations. Go for help. Figure out how can we speak about these situations and struggles and find out what her truth is and find out what my truth is. Be able to hash that stuff out so you can now stay connected. Because to me, sex is crazy important to me. Crazy important to me. But then you got to say, how important is it? Sex becomes incredible, not simply because of the act. And some people are just good at the act because that's what they're used to. You rang my bell and that was perfect. But what about that sex that just blows your mind because you are communicating at that next level? With the touches actually means something to you. After a long day of watching how he showed up for you over and over again, or how she did and she went over and above or helped you become this greater being, that when you finally get to the place of the physical touch, that it just rocks your world, no matter what the act is in itself, no matter what the act is. But
foreplay starts with good morning.
Say it again.
Foreplay starts with good morning.
Yes. And I teach that, making love all day long, staying in contact, reaching out, and I was adventurous. I was always adventurous as far as let's go do here, let's go fly here, let's go do this, let's go. But what about when she came home to the physical touch? Because of all the things I heard, I just held it and just never rooted it up. I just let it get uglier and uglier and uglier, that I just didn't do anything. So when I went back to research and to find that stuff out, I went to work. I wanted to dig up all that stuff. I wanted not only know why was I feeling the way I was feeling, but now give me enough equipment through research and on what to do in those for instances. What to do in those for instances to make sure that you could have that type of connection again. Because once I got separated, I went freaking buck wild. I lost my damn mind. I went back to the times as if I was an entertainer again. I just lost I'm flying all over the globe. people there. I had one over here. I had one over. I'm telling you, lost my mind because I'm like, I want to make sure this thing still works. Hey, this is the real shop talk, right? Are we being that honest? I went buck wild. But I'll tell you about the buck wildness. It never satisfied a core need. It never. Because I wanted love. I wanted a love. I wanted to feel safe. I wanted to be able to hand over a bit of my life to you and know that you're going to manage it well. And I want you to be able to trust me with bits and pieces of you and know that I'm there to support, that I'm there to show up, that I'm even going to financially make sure your dreams come true, that it's a two-way street, that you don't have to concern yourself with me running around and cheating on you. That ain't of it. That I'm not interested in that. But I want a real genuine connection that allows these feelings, that actual act of sex, to actually be just explosive.
So I would like to say one thing, and then I would love for us to get to that question if we have time, Derek. I think another element that we have to remember is we need to be realistic about sex as well. Sex needs to be prioritized, and there's nothing wrong with it being planned. I think a lot of times we get into this mindset of this, we watch movies or we listen to music. And I mean, everything ain't going to be bubble baths and rub you down and honey and oil and all this shit. Sometimes this is going to be, hey, look, Wednesday night, ain't no football on. So let's do this. Let's plan it out. And approach it in a way where you understand that it doesn't have to be this romantic, magical, mind-blowing thing. It can just be an opportunity to connect, especially if you're married and you've been married for a while. You're not going to always have that, that mind-blowing first time, sex. It's just, it doesn't work that way. So you got to be realistic.
Okay, so
for yourself, brother.
I see you over here giving 27 sprinkles. So
yeah, next episode is the Bachelor episode starring John Singletary. So we're gonna wrap this up, but I do have a question on the floor if you guys have time, from Erica. She says, have you guys ever lost sexual attraction towards a woman and then got it back again? So anybody can take that.
Yes, absolutely. And here's what I think Gunter Man was talking about, There comes a point for a man where sex becomes as much cerebral as it is physical, where you have
Say that again.
It does. It becomes just as much cerebral as it does physical, where I have walked away from opportunity and to the chagrin of my friends. Man, you ain't hit that. What you talking about? She didn't do anything for me. There's no connection. There's nothing there. I don't feel anything. And because I don't feel anything, I can't feel anything for her. Now, I have met women who I was sexually attracted to. Something happened, we fell off. And then we were able to bond on something outside of sex. And then the attraction came back. And so I know, and this is something I say all the time. I get the idea that men are motivated by sex. We're not. I guarantee you, every man on this panel, and it ain't just because we're old, but every man on this panel has the ability to say no. And any man who does not have the ability to say no just has not matured to a point where he is thinking, he has taken over the job of thinking with his head and not with his penis. And he understands that, like Gunter Man just said, there is no value in just going out there and conquering. And this is why I have such an issue with the hunter-gatherer, the hunter-prey concept. Here's the thing. Lions hunt when they're hungry. And then when they're not, they don't. They're not daily on the prowl, constantly looking for food. That's not how it works. And if you look at it, a lion only hunts maybe 5 or 6 times a year because they hunt, they kill, they eat to their fill, and then they're cool for a while. So men are just not out here, just trying to knock down everything they can. There are some men who are, but they just haven't reached a level of maturity to understand that if there's no emotional connection, there's no value in what you're doing. And you're wasting a lot of time, effort, and money, because what you're doing out in them street, you can do at home.
And you know what? You're also denying yourself the opportunity for love to come your way. If you're out there beating the streets, every time you out there just beating the streets, you're denying yourself the opportunity for real love to come your way. Because God's like, prove to me that you can do the right thing. Prove to me. Why am I going to give you one of my amazing treasures? If that's how you're going to treat, if that's how you're already treating life, why would I entrust any of my beautiful women to you if that's how you are treating yourself? If that's what you're doing, why would I? Why would I? Because if you don't care about your body that much, why would I introduce someone to you that you are now going to compare her to what wasn't right for you, or this thing that just pops in and out of your life? What are you doing? Why would I trust you with her? Because now you're going to compare, because it just happened recently. Why would I give you someone fresh and new? No, because you're going to be like, well, that is too close to compare. Abstain, wait, figure it out. Make your life so filled with quality that your journey has manifested joy, love, peace, that you're living at that place and you're not looking for it from someone else. Because sometimes a part of things that go rotten in your life with a relationship or in a marriage is that you placed peace, your peace on top of that person. You placed your happiness on that person. You placed that feeling of love on that person. It's a weight that they can never bear. It's a weight that they can never, ever bear. No one can be your peace. No one can be your happiness. No one can be your joy. You have to bring that to the table. And if you can't figure that out, and if you're not operating from that space, your frequency will never pull in that person that you really need, nor will God ever trust you with that woman or man.
So I'm going to say this. John or Tony Watts, if y'all have anything to add, we wrap it up.
Y'all landed the plane so lovely. I'm just going to sit here and wait for my last cocktail so I can get off.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say this closing remark, especially to the ladies in the audience that will listen now on the replay. If you've learned nothing else tonight, throughout all of this dialogue, that we've had over these 2 hours that we've been on here, it's impossible for sex to just be physical with all this dialogue we had tonight. It's impossible. And when you realize that our makeup, the way we approach sex, the way we approach love may be different, but it comes from the same place. We're not so different in that respect. And when you take away the physical, the assumption that it's only physical for a guy, and you see us as more, then you approach us differently. You'll receive us differently. You'll have boundaries differently, because those other type of guys that we talked about that are doing it for sport, like Tony Massey was alluding to, you'll be able to see those guys come in. You'll still be able to have the great sex, but now there's nuance and there's emotion and there's a human being behind it, and it makes it more powerful. To what Gutterman was saying earlier, that's what you want. And sometimes you got to shake us a little bit and say, hey, hold on, slow down. I know you're a good guy. Just wait a second. And then it eventually can come and build something beautiful. So that's the biggest point I want to make tonight. If you learn nothing else tonight, run this back and listen to the dialogue. The actual just only physical part of it was minimal in this conversation. So we're not these things that we're painted to be. We're humans too. And so I'm gonna just land there. I don't know if anybody if you got anything coming up this week, or do you want to just defer them to the website? We'll defer you to the website, realshoptalk.net. Scrolling down at the bottom here. All of our profiles are there. You can find us and see what we're up to on Instagram. And then from there, you can kind of go to all of our, if we have any other platforms. So we thank you guys, especially those in the comments. The comments was, I know I didn't read hardly any of them tonight, but the comments, that's all I'm going to say. The comments, they were amazing tonight. We thank you guys. We love you guys for coming out. Make sure you continue to share. Make sure you continue to invite a friend, so that we can spread the word. Make sure that you support the YouTube channel as we grow the YouTube channel, and just follow us everywhere on social media and just see what we're up to. We got some exciting things. I think next Monday is the second Monday, so that's ladies' night. So we're gonna figure this out, and we're gonna bring y'all something amazing. So make sure you come back. And yeah, that's it. Y'all have a good night. Please stay safe. And we'll be here same time, same place. So we'll see you next week. Have a great night.